In this video we have a VCR, and this was one I saved from the e-waste. Probably should have left it there, but I really couldn't help myself. This is actually a rare Pi branded one, though I don't think you can even see the brand on the front, but it's a made in Korea one, which means it's either Samsung, Gold Star, which became LG, which I think is Lucky Gold Star, or Daewoo. And Daewoo I think were only rebadged as AWA. Samsung had Samsung and Akai brands on them. Same with the TVs, were all Samsung chassis, or most of them were, in the sort of later 80s, early 90s Samsung era. And Gold Star came out as Gold Star. Also Sonic I think was the most common other brand, but there no doubt were others like Tracton and different things on some of these things. I forget what was what. This one I'm not really sure what it is. I can't remember for sure. I'm going it's possibly a Samsung. Don't think it's a Gold Star, but maybe. But I just really wanted to see inside another one of these things just for nostalgia's sake in a way, even though I don't have any positive memories of Korean VCRs because a lot of them were pretty unreliable, certainly not up to Japanese quality, and they sort of came out, the TVs were more around 86, 87 I think, and the VCRs maybe 87, 88 onwards. But it's a Pi model VRD-300L, made in Korea, and yeah, very rare to see any Pi VCRs. Some of the early Sharp ones, which were rebadged Philips, also came out in a very rare Pi version. I think I saw one or two, whereas there were, you know, thousands of Sharps, maybe hundreds of Philips, and one or two Pi versions. And yeah, this era, I'm not sure. I'd say Pi probably wasn't even part of Philips at this stage anymore. Someone else probably had the brand name. And does this have a date on it? Yeah, it looks like 89. We've got 88 to 91 range, and then possibly VO, V1, V2, HB, and that's 1 through to 10 plus A and B, and it's pointing to 5, so I don't know if that's 5th month or something else. Yeah, the bottom still doesn't really tell me what it is. Kind of looks Samsung-y, but I'll just have a look inside. I'm not sure I ever saw one of this particular model as a Pi, but no doubt it'll look familiar once I get the lid off it, because there were tons of these things around, and yeah, they did break down a lot. Mostly people went and bought them from Kmart and places like that, and yeah, not the longest lived things. Oh, this is a Daewoo, I think, going by the colour of the board. Is it a Daewoo? Doesn't look Samsung or LG to me. What sort of chips have we got in here? Some sort of a DTS something. DMB. We've got a Samsung chip over there. Another Samsung chip there. Sanyo. Yeah, I don't know. Quite cooked on the board. There is another Samsung chip in the power supply. This year I didn't see as many. The earlier Samsungs, I've got a videotape, I think they did say this had an issue with the cassette getting stuck in there or something. Yeah, strangely, I'm kind of at a loss what it is. I don't think it's a Samsung though, but some of the later Samsungs, that's got 1992 there, so much for 1989. Maybe that thing on the back has got nothing to do with the date. I would have thought this was later than 89. That was back in the Samsung, were they 600 series or something. Really poorly, sort of poor looking machines. They kind of look cheap and nasty on the front panels. They were a bit thicker than these, I think, a bit larger machines. And the LG's ironically used a Panasonic mechanism similar to NV870 I fixed, and the NV2, what was it, 250, 450 era, copied their mechanism, had the die-cast chassis and everything, but they were much less reliable, even though they were a copy, I assume, licensed or something from Panasonic. Unless this is another weirdo sort of rare chassis, but it's from Korea, so it should be one of the three big companies. Glasgow made in... Yes, I thought that's a Japanese delay line. So they probably weren't up to making their own delay lines at this point. Like the Chinese, they started off making some parts, but they couldn't actually make others. Things like picture tubes and stuff in TVs, they just put one out of someone else's. But I think Samsung and that were pretty early into the picture tubes. I think these are just RF type motors, which might have actually been a Japanese company as well. Yeah, I really don't know. We've got a clock display. Channels change. Hit eject. Oh, that worked. Well, so much for that theory. Maybe it just doesn't load up when you go the other way. Something still running there. Where's our buttons? Oh, it actually seems to work. Well, there you go. Well, to some degree. Oh, amazingly, it's probably playing a tape. Oh well. I don't think the chip shop tested it too thoroughly. I can hear that tape making a funny noise here. It's crunching the top of the tape there on that guide. I'm definitely not shocked by that sort of thing in one of these. Is it the heads or something? Is it too much? Doesn't feel like too much tension. Let's take a bit of tension off. And it is, yeah, it's dropped back down the guide, so it was actually pulling up and crunching on the guide. It could be the lower drums. Needs a good clean. Now it's actually okay. Are the guides fully forward? That's another thing that sometimes causes that. If they haven't seated, and then these Samsungs and stuff, the bits underneath used to pop off the guides. So they'd rise up and then, or they'd jam because the tape was pulling them back and they'd tilt. But yeah, this, I think, Daewoo, but oh, it seems to actually run. That's amazing. I think these later ones weren't quite as bad as some of the early ones, but the first ones that came out from LG and Samsung were pretty bad machines and used to get all sorts of problems. I think I even remember fixing a video folding one because I'd lost the picture or something, and it was one of the plastic connectors, multi-pin connectors on the circuit board had actually leaked through the plastic. So whether the plastic had some sort of impurity in it or something, but you know, random stuff like that, just from everything being poor quality in them, and the gears and stuff all used to fail. Yeah, this mech is not a familiar one. I've got a Sony motor in it, so there you go. That might be a good capstan for a Sony machine. Actually, why have we stopped turning? I must have pressed one of the buttons because, yeah, I was going to say, there's no capstan turning. Look at that belt, it's got a big bulge in it. That's been sitting around, well, it's been sitting here for about 3 years, I think, and God knows how long before that, since it was last used. But yeah, this mechanism, I think it's a Mitsubishi motor driver chip on the heads. Wow. I don't know if the Wagner side or anything's got any parts listings still for some of this stuff, because this, I think, was something like a Tempest or something. It was a rarer, don't think it was one of the AWA machines. Got a Panasonic type mode switch, I think. I think the ones look something like that. It's a bit of a worry. That belt's got a big bulge. No idea. Oh, well, this thing actually might not be that bad. Yeah, I can't. Oh, one thing we can check is the capacitors, I guess. A lot of those used to have the Daewoo symbol on if they were a Daewoo, but these look more like Japanese ones or something. Oh no, that's a Daewoo, I think. The good old caps are giving it away. Yeah, we've got Daewoo, 2 Daewoo caps in there. Yeah, these little ones with a little, almost looks like a little seashell symbol or something. Little fanned out thing. It's a Daewoo. Usually that board colour gives it away. Don't think they ever really marked anything. Gelco. RF units, that's probably from Japan. That's strange if they made a machine. I don't think AWA ever... There were some horrible AWA machines that were not made by Mitsubishi. I think Mitsubishi gave up in the end after some of the HS series, which were pretty good machines. Early Mitsubishis were pretty horrible, the AWA badge ones. Particularly, I think the AV11s and AV14s, really complicated mech with grease all over it that dried up, and horrible thing to work on. And yeah, I was never a fan of those machines. I've got an old AV or ATV 4 or 5 here, I think. One of their really early ones, which weren't so bad. But yeah, the early Mitsubishi mechanical stuff was not the best. Then they made some really nice HS series, slimline black VCRs, sort of late 80s, I think. They were quite nice machines. Did have a few issues with them as far as repairs, and then yeah, then I think everything just went to rebadged. Well, I guess Mitsubishi probably kept its own brand going, and someone took over the AWA brand name and just put it on Daewoo cheapo machines. I think they were getting up around the AV65 or something. I think Mitsubishi went with like HSE or HS series. AWA continued with the AVs, and yeah, I remember somewhere around the 65s and stuff were pretty horrible machines from memory. And yeah, not very reliable. I mean, somewhat good for the service industry, I guess, because they broke down a bit, but yeah, a lot of people got rid of them fairly quick because they had so much trouble with them, so they just ended up chucking them out rather than getting them fixed was the problem. Whereas the Japanese ones that broke down once in a while, people still get them repaired. Well, this looks like it probably works. I'm going to plug it into the TV. ABC One, so that was recorded reasonably recently. I thought it sounded like newer stuff. What's the tracking on this thing? It's probably... it does have a manual tracking control. And it really doesn't do anything at all. That's the sharpness. Not that we can trust this tape. It's got a display on-off button. That's a rarity. Guess if you couldn't fix the flashing clock, you could turn it right off. Kevin Rudd, so Kevin 07 era. But this tape I don't think had anything to do with this machine. It might have done. Yeah, every function seems to work on it. Well, I haven't tried to record, of course, but I have to put a pattern generator in or something to get an analog signal. Hardly worth worrying about these days. Yeah, it looks like I saved a perfectly good machine from the scrapper. Got this function you can turn the entire display on and off, which is a weird one. I mean, a lot of people didn't set the clocks and had them flashing away, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe more of them should have had that. Well, that's certainly a surprising one. That's been sitting around for ages and I hadn't got around to doing anything with it. I guess there's a bit of footage there I could upload to the internet too, some old promos and bits and pieces. Yeah, this mechanism just doesn't look at all familiar. Yeah, I don't remember that idler, so I mustn't have seen many of these. Possibly a rather rare machine. So it's got 692 on there, so I wonder if that's the date the head was also made. Could probably do with a good clean. There's quite a bit of wear on the upper drum possibly. Some of them used to get the face scored. I'm not sure if it was bad tapes or they didn't make the aluminium as well in some of these machines, but certainly some of them got the whole surface, the actual shininess has gone. And it doesn't clean off. So you get this sort of dull banding, except for the very top ridge that doesn't touch the tape. But I think that could happen in the better quality machines as well, so maybe it was either a lot of usage or some of the tapes were more abrasive. And I can see a couple of cracks forming in the top of the pinch roller. It's actually surprisingly clean, and the capstan's not too bad. So it's either been serviced at some stage or it didn't really have that much use, which is strange for the amount of abrasion on the head. Maybe it was a lot of head cleaners run through it or something. I think I used to use a pair of pliers or something on these and just lift that off. Very much a sharp sort of size pinch roller maybe. No corrosion on it, but there is a split. You can open that up a bit. There's a crack there. It's not that bad really. One crack I guess is not too bad for the age. It's starting to go down the side a bit. Yeah, I'm surprised that's all that's really wrong with it, other than that it's not bad condition. That's just a little push on plastic bit. Yeah, it's... The fact that it survived this long would probably suggest that it isn't a high hours machine, because the ones that got a lot of hours certainly didn't last as well. Let's try winding it on a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if those belts are a bit dodgy. I guess one thing I can do is look up in the Wagner list of what belt kit this model Pi uses, and then we can see what other machines share the same belt kit. That was always a good way of finding who made something or what other machines were the same model. I think this was actually a rarer machine, not just because it had the Pi brand, but just this mechanism was a bit rarer. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one did come out under Tempest or something as well. It'd be interesting to see if there's an AWA or anything equivalent. Well, it's surprising things you remember, but yes, Tempest TE99R was one of the only two machines that shared the same belt kit with this, so likely the only other one with, or the other two with the same mechanism. And the other one's a brand I've never heard of called Deitron, D-E-I-T-R-O-N. Only reference I could find besides in the Wagner catalogue as sharing the same belt kit as this machine is some guy in a forum somewhere a few years back saying that he reckons there was 3 models, 2 VCRs and one player, and maybe 4 models of TV that he thought were made by Daewoo. He used to be the service agent or something and couldn't remember what they even looked like. Had no photos and stuff, so there you go. There were 2 other machines. Yeah, just for some reason I probably only ever saw about 2 Tempest VCRs. But this just gave me that memory that this was a Tempest type machine, because they were quite rare as well. It's quite possible these later Pis weren't even sold in Tasmania, because I don't remember seeing any Pi branded later stuff. And you know, by later, this is not that late, 92, but after the Sharp era machines, back when Philips had it, yeah, very rare to see a Pi VCR, or Pi anything for that matter. There were a few Philips KT3 and stuff televisions is about the latest I saw with Pi on them, I think. There was one Sharp portable, but that was also probably around 1980 or something. Maybe 80 to 82 or some sort of that sort of era. And then Pi just basically vanished generally. You might have seen it on a bit of audio equipment here and there, but quite a rare brand around here. And Tempest also was never really sold locally, I don't think. So that's it. There's 3 machines that use this mechanism. It's not your standard sort of Daewoo thing. Trying to think what AWA would have had in this era. Let's think, because I think most of the Daewoo AWAs were slimline machines, a bit later than this thing. So yeah, what was the last? Well, AWA must have had its brand. Well, maybe it dropped off the market for a while. AV14s. Yeah, no, I can't remember when the AWA brand went to Daewoo chassis, but I suspect most of them were later than this. So maybe these early ones, these Daewoos, when they first came into the market, there really wasn't anyone interested in taking them on. So Samsung already had deals with people, Goldstar already had deals with people like brands like TIAC and Akai and those sort of brands. So maybe Daewoo were trying to squeeze in. NEC ended up using them for VCRs. AWA, which was a defunct brand name, basically separated from Mitsubishi, used them. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened to AWA. Maybe it went off the market there for a while because Mitsubishi started rebadging everything Mitsubishi, so maybe it disappeared because it wasn't on TVs until the Chinese stuff more around 94, 95, I think. So maybe it was around that era the brand came out, and before 94 or so, these Daewoos were just a rare thing in Australia. I mean, NEC were using their TVs though. I'm trying to think what, there was some fairly dodgy NEC machines, but I don't think they were actually Daewoo. Yeah, hard to remember even some of the NECs of this era. What were they actually putting out? God, it's amazing. Amazing what you do remember, amazing what you forget. So many different machines came out over the years, but this is certainly a bit of a rarity. So early Daewoo VCR chassis in Australia, which was, yeah, I think quite a rare thing in that era. Don't know if there was any late 80s Daewoos. This is obviously in the early 90s. They're starting to come out under a few sort of low-end brands or small brands. So it's quite a rare machine, this thing, but yeah, rarity doesn't equate to desirability, and yeah, not a very desirable machine. I was just going to have a look at what's on the end of this tape. Looks like I hit fast forward and it didn't quite make it to the end, which is often the case with bad belts. That's all ABC1 by the look of it. I expected, oh yeah, it's almost chewing it there. Yeah, that won't work. I thought when I had to go and do something, and I thought when I came back it'll get right to the end and then just rewind it anyway. So it's struggling, but it's sometimes when they really slow down they just stop. Let's try the rewind from here. Always a test you had to do with VCRs is run the rewind and fast forward right through, because some of the sharp machines that were common for customer hadn't complained about it, but they actually needed a new belt kit because the capstan belt would slip. But I used to pretty much always run them right through to the end of the tape, especially on a longer, like a 240 tape was good. And then see if they got all the way back to the beginning, because a lot of machines would slip under load, whether it was the idler or the capstan belt or something like that. But it looks like you can still get a belt kit for these things, but I'm not sure I'll bother. What have we got anyway? I think the loading mech doesn't have anything, so it's only, well, 3 belts. That one, and that one at least. They're all easy to change. This is like a 15-minute service and belt kit kind of machine, which is one thing I like about these sort of machines, is when you could actually service them really quickly. But getting into the 90s, they all got a bit simpler. So it's certainly starting to struggle towards the end. Belt's starting to slip a bit. You can see that's going a lot faster than that is. And that's probably what's making that noise. That helped it a bit. So that's what a worn capstan belt looks like. Surprised it's not smoking by now. Must be quite a bit of friction of this thing slipping against the belt. And look at it, it's got to the point it's must be getting close to the end. Oh, it's already close. Poor old Sony motor's making some funny noises. There we are, we've got just getting to the leader tape and it should click. There it is. So technically a functional VCR. Everything does what it should, just. But anyway, that's probably as far as I'll go with that. I'm not sure it's really worth putting a belt kit in. It's more just a novelty thing. I think it cost me like $2 or something. Luckily I spotted it before it went in the shipping container to go off the e-waste. And I thought it'd be interesting to see what was actually inside it. So there's a lot of the other generic Daewoo machines around. But this one looks like be quite an early, and obviously they didn't have any partnerships with big companies then, big brands. So you just didn't see them. But probably a few different importers. I mean, who knows, maybe it was the one importer had Pi and Tracton and D-Tron or whatever the other one was. Not impossible. Or they could be all completely different companies. I wish I still had some of the old listings of addresses and company names for these things for spare parts, because that was a good way to work out who was behind each brand. And yeah, this is in surprisingly good condition, not even dirty or rusted under this thing. So this must have been one of the machines, maybe it was a low hour machine that just never got used much, despite the way the heads look in it. And that's why it survived all this time without wearing out and not getting replaced and chucked out. But it's pretty poor condition, lots of scratches on it. Front flap's missing, there should be a door, but yeah, these were, a lot of these Korean ones, I think the Samsungs were all the same. They had little plastic bits that went clipped onto these round bits, and they broke off as easy as anything. Poor quality plastic. Every Samsung you saw, I think, had the door missing off it pretty much. And some with Panasonic version of them and stuff, or Panasonic version of the Gold Stars. A lot of those machines always look rough like this. And you know, you could buy a million of the things secondhand if you wanted to, and I generally try to stay away from them because they weren't very reliable, and they always had a ratty looking front on them like that because the door was missing. But I do remember there being a lot of them around. I guess in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was just tons of these machines came on the market secondhand. And yeah, I try to avoid them, but it looks like this maybe wasn't as bad as even some of it, certainly not as the earlier Gold Star and Samsung stuff, but that was more around the late 80s, probably 4 or 5 years older than this one. And they really didn't know what they were doing then, and lots of poor quality parts. But yeah, it's pretty rare you see a Daewoo thing and actually think it's not too bad. Usually it's the opposite. But that's all we'll do with that one for now, so thanks for watching.